Stream to the right channel. Are we live? Yep, looks like it's working. Hopefully my audio is working this time. Good grief. All right. All right, picking up where I left off. What did I accomplish last time? I streamed for 45 minutes and didn't have my audio turned on. That was awesome. Anyway, this will be another test, and we will see if it records and if I can do something with it. And of course, we're going to have problems with this iPad too, aren't we? So, for those of you, which would be all of you, who have no idea what my setup consists of, I'm using Adobe Draw on an iPad Pro. And something that's really been kind of crappy about this setup is that, especially when plugged in, sometimes it's not very responsive to touch. It will reject my finger motions, the pinch, the squeeze, the panning effects, even just tapping on things. And it's not just in this one app, it happens in other apps too, which is super crappy. It means it's not just within the app, it was an iPad problem. I actually returned it to the Apple Store once, got it replaced, things seem to work great. Now that I'm trying streaming, it's doing it again a little bit. So I don't know, we'll see where it goes. Some of it might just mean that I need to reboot and restart my setup here. But if it becomes untenable, I might have to change my dongle or change my entire life situation. We'll see. So last time I was in here, I had set up this Sunday strip. And normally I don't have all the word bubbles and everything laid out ahead of time. Usually it's more of a blank canvas. And this ended up being the kind of situation where I have so much text that I needed to place all that stuff ahead of time to make sure I had room, you know, for all of the people. And then once I had all the text in place, you know, I went ahead and filled in some sketches of some very rough sketches of where people were going to go. And the way I did that, typically I will start with a template that I've set up here within Adobe Draw. This is my Sunday template. It's designed to be like a newspaper comic on Sundays. Here's my Monday through Saturday template, which is a typical 4-panel setup. And what I did is I opened up my Sunday template, I started working in it and realized I had too much text and that I needed to lay that stuff out first. So switching to Adobe Illustrator, I have my Illustrator template here. Now this is, once I export things from the iPad, this is where it ends up. I drop all the layers in here and I have to make sure that Paste Remember Layers is selected. My template has all of my word bubbles, my narration, my dialogue boxes and everything set up, and they're pre-sized to reproduce well when it comes to the eventual printing process, right? Because I want to print this in a Calvin and Hobbes collection sized book. So anyways, in my Sunday template here, I've got everything all laid out, ready to accept the work from the iPad as soon as I'm ready for it. I worked a little backwards this time, and what I did is I took that template, opened it up, and just started laying out text until I was satisfied with all that. And then once I was satisfied with it, I went and exported it as a PNG. I used artboards when exporting, and always at 600 pixels per inch with a white background. That gives me a high resolution to work with, even though this is all vector, so no matter what I choose to do with it, eventually it will be scalable and will always be sharp. So that's the goal. But once it was exported from Illustrator, then I dropped it back into Adobe Draw as an image layer. So you can see that here in the layers. I've got this image layer here. I can shut it off. And then I started doing my sketch layers on top of it. And what that consists of is, you know, this pink sketch layer, which was the roughs of everything. Let me shut off the people here too. Come on, baby. Here we go. Once I got the pink roughs in here, I don't usually do 2 whole layers of sketches, but in this case, you know, like I said, I'm working in a kind of unique process for this one. Then I did the people sketches on top of that, and then finally I started inking everybody. So here would be, you know, Steve for this panel. Oh, man. Yeah, the pinching and rotating is kind of a pain in the butt. Here's the Emily for this panel, and then Mom for this panel. And then earlier today, I figured out, let me just continue with this since I was on a roll. And so I did a Steve and Emily for here. One thing I try to be cognizant of while doing this work is my line widths. Sometimes that can vary greatly. I use this tapered brush when I'm doing organic stuff like human bodies, fabric, and it's all pressure sensitive, you know, so a light touch does a light line, a heavy touch does a heavy line, and it's automatically tapered at the ends, which is great for organic materials. But when I'm doing something that's non-organic, like those kitchen counters in the panel up here, come on, God, jeez. God, if this iPad keeps doing this, it's really going to kill me. Yeah, see, I end up using like a rounded brush that doesn't have a taper to it. It's still pressure sensitive, but it creates more of an organic feeling, or an inorganic feeling. So I try to choose my brushes depending on what it is I'm drawing. However, knowing that this is going to be printed, you know, you've got, when things go to paper, you have to worry about ink, and you have to worry about the spread of the ink, whether your ink is going to, oh, there's Dan. Thanks, man. I have my friend Dan checking on me to make sure that my audio is actually working this time. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, when you're putting stuff to print, there's trapping to consider. There's the eventual spread of ink as it hits the paper. And so what you want to do is make sure that, you know, when you zoom out, God, see what I'm saying here? There we go. When you zoom out, you want to make sure that some of these lines aren't so skinny that the ink is not really going to even take. For instance, you know, Emily's pupils here, they look like they could stand to be fattened up. Also, the line on her nose. So one of the cool things about Adobe Draw is that you can just kind of tap, like, let me zoom way in here. I'm just constantly tortured by Apple products, forgive me. If I hold the stylus down on top of this layer, it will actually beef up the line. Let me undo a little bit and then show that in the iPad view. So I can just tap on it and hold. Whoops. Yeah, and so that's something I do with thin lines when I'm trying to, you know, QC this work and make sure that I'm actually able to see everything clearly when printed. Things are looking kind of even right now, so that's nice. And my preview monitor I'm looking at, you know, I mean, it makes everything look so sharp. It's hard to imagine how it could look when printed sometimes, but that's where intuition and some experience come into play. So, all right, that's enough ranting and babbling about my process. We're going to create another layer now. We'll call this Mom 3. It is certainly troubling that the non-responsive iPad screen is a thing again, especially during a pandemic. I know that Apple store in Portland is closed. I just do not want to deal with this again. Once I've finished this project, I'm strongly considering moving away from the iPad. And I've seen a lot of artists using like a Windows tablet, the Windows Surface, and I think a lot of them were doing that so that they could use Manga Studio. Dan's asking, are my hands dry? No, they're a little sweaty, Dan. I got that going on. Also, Emily opened a bottle of champagne about a half hour ago, and I started joining her with that. So, you know, hot weather plus a little bit of day drinking plus, yeah, maybe I need a Michael Jackson fingerless glove. I don't know why I said Michael Jackson. He had fingers on his glove. Excellent point. So, yeah, that can cause the device to be unresponsive. I agree. So one of the things that I recommend, not just for the iPad, but for anybody wearing glasses, by the way, is this thing. I found these microfiber cloths at the auto parts store. They're made for like automotive detailing, like when you're waxing and polishing. And I swear to you, they're the gentlest fabric to use on glasses. And they're giant, so you can just wrap your glasses up and give them a good rogering. That says way too much about what I think about the process of cleaning. Anyway, scrub, scrub, scrub. Maybe that will help. Book. And we're back. Boop. One of the other weird things that's been happening, as long as I'm complaining about my technology, the great enabler that's allowing me to do all this, so it's a bit like biting the hand that feeds you. It's not doing it right now, but sometimes the Apple Pencil has this really weird, like, pressure sensitivity cutoff point. And I've noticed that occasionally, like if I'm drawing a progressively harder line, like I just did, there will be a moment where it goes from thin to fat, like a cliff edge, you know. And it's an intermittent thing. It may be because I'm a pen twirler, you know, one of these people. I don't think I'm even twirling the pen correctly, but I do know that I drop it a lot, and so that might be half of the reason why this is happening to me, because I need a fidget spinner to protect me from myself. Oh, so I'm going to start a second layer for Mom's body, because a lot of times when I'm doing this work, I end up getting the head the wrong size. Head. You have the wrong size head. And it's much easier to adjust that after the fact, you know, when you have separate layers. I don't know, Dan. This is actually helping already. Maybe the problem really was my bodily secretions. That was really a terrible way to phrase that. Yeah, it's maybe for some it's hot. Well, if my thinking is correct here, I'm never going to make this whole streaming enterprise worth my time, nor am I going to have a lot of people interested unless I do this all the time. And that means that I need to probably like lean into just drawing and shooting the shit and not trying to make a lesson out of things. I think my previous workplace where Dan and I met, has kind of kept me in this mindset that everything needs to be this polished tutorial, you know what I mean? So, not always the case. I think, Dan, you're probably my only viewer right now. So, wanted to point out, I got my ladder shelves today and managed to create a background that feels somewhat more polished and at least more visually interesting. Got Emily's record collection, whoop, right there-ish. And some magical goodness over here. So this will be a versatile space. I'll be able to do DJing here as well as this setup. And all I got to do is just move the DJ rig over here, get rid of the iPad, and then I have a setting, a preset on the switcher specifically for this, and then another preset specifically for that. So should be cool. Nice experiment either way. So normally when I'm doing inks too, I don't have this layer of pre-baked text and word bubbles and everything, right? So I'm usually working on a white background. I only did it that way this time because I had a lot of text and a lot of word bubbles I was worried about fitting. So I kind of laid things out ahead of time in a way that gave me a way to anticipate how much room I had to place the characters in these scenes and frame everybody. Now here we go again. Anyway, point is, when I start doing the fill colors, I normally fill everybody with white. And on a background like this, let's do a new draw layer. That white fill color can be a little hard to see, especially if the brightness is up high. So what I'll typically do is I'll do my fill color in something bright like this pink. Then I can really see what I'm doing with the fill. And then once the entire character is filled, then I can press and hold on it with a different color and turn everything white after the fact. But yeah, by using a bright kind of placeholder color in the meantime, I can get where I'm going. Now, it's not as much of an issue because I've got this blue background, but you know what? Maybe I just like bright colors. Once you have a method, stick with it, right? Dan says the camera cuts are rad. Yeah, I'm digging the dissolves, and on the box here I can choose to set it for like a longer dissolve period. So the transition can take longer, which is fun. And then there's also like these built-in like wipes, which are kind of fun. There's a push transition, or a reveal, I guess you would call that. And then there's this shit, the squish. From what I understand, there's other like software-based transitions that you can select. I haven't messed with it yet, but you know, it's taken like a full week and a half to really get everything sorted here. So you know, one thing at a time, I'll get there. What's really great too is that this is just hardwired right now. The box is just going directly to a LAN cable, so I'm not running to the PC for any reason at all. Oh, and what's also interesting, let me just, as long as we're talking shop, so like I said, hardwired, whoop, this LAN cable, and then what it's actually going to over here is an Airport Express that has been configured to be like a Wi-Fi extender. So I have an old Airport Extreme I bought like 6 or 7 years ago, and I plugged it into the router so that it is serving as an extender, and then I can just hardwire it from there. So technically it's still wireless. But what's cool is that I've got this like the software kind of gives you a display of what your bit rate is, what the output is at the moment. It even says Twitch right there, like tells you where you're streaming to. So once the stream key is put in and you press the on air button, you've got a display here of exactly what your upload bit rate is. The cache, okay, like if I was exceeding that bit rate that Comcast was capable of, it would show me the cache. There's levels visible here. Yeah, it's a pretty sick little piece of gear, man. I'm happy with it. Boop. Digging it. And what's really awesome too is if I plug it into the PC with a USB-C cable, then I can just use the entire thing as a webcam. So I can output these exact cuts, the overlays, all the green screen effects, and use the entire setup for Zoom or something like that. Hey, Evan's here. Thanks, dude. So, gosh, what do I do now? I guess I've been avoiding it, but I might as well start working on this kitchen scene. Why am I avoiding it? Because these figurative kind of panels where I'm doing like, I should merge them on layer, where I have to do like scenery. It's so time consuming. That's why I like recycling backgrounds. For instance, the assisted living facility. This came from a previous strip. I kind of just duplicated it and so I could extend it and add like more to it. Like previously, let me see if I can explain this. Previously, like it was only this much of it. Is that even visible? It was only like this much of it that I had drawn. And so in Illustrator, I duplicated that and then dragged it over here to make this extra part. And kind of messed with the skewing and scaling. Yeah, Evan, thanks for joining. I'm not expecting people to stick around too much. I just wanted to test it out and have a couple of live viewers so it's not just me talking to myself yet again. Plus, it'll make a more interesting recording, I think. What am I going to do with the recording? I have no idea. We'll find out. So yeah, the figurative stuff. When I'm doing like scenery, backgrounds, non-organic things like the kitchen, the assisted living place, that stuff is so damn time consuming. But it's the kind of thing that's like good to work on in front of the TV when you're watching something mind-numbing. A lot of perspective work. Oops. Thankfully, there's rulers built into the software too. Book. It's kind of cool when doing like perspective lines like that, having that pressure sensitivity, because you can like add just a little bit extra to this line by increasing the pressure as you draw it, and so it tapers a bit as it goes off into the distance. I'm really fond of this piece of software, this app. The vector drawing is great on its own because I know it's sort of future-proof. I can scale it for whatever print needs might come up someday. But I like how limiting it is, which is a funny thing to say, but if you have too many options, then you're tempted to like make things too complicated. And knowing that I've only got like 15 or so layers that I can use at a single time kind of forces me to flatten layers things get too complicated or just make critical decisions, and kind of helps protect me from myself. It's really easy to get carried away. Tim says, draw some bobs. Bobs. That is the nickname of our cat, so maybe I could draw our cat. I don't take commissions, Tim. I cannot draw bobs for you, Tim. I'm sorry. I can make my pencil into rubber, though. That's the service I provide. Did I mention it's fucking hot as shit in this room right now? Ugh. This is where everybody in California is going to unfriend me instantly, because clearly you've got it way worse than me right now. And man, do I feel bad. It's checking on like Satsy's updates and hearing all the reports from everybody down there who feels like trapped in their houses because of the pandemic, but also can't leave right now because the smoke in the air is so brutal. As well as, what was I going to say? Doing two things at once here. I'm like losing my train of thought. As well as the fear of not having power just in case the power goes off and then you can't run your air conditioning. I mean, good Lord. Shit is not great. Evan says, I feel so bad for California right now. Yeah, for sure. And shoot, dude, I know you're in Utah, so you're not exactly cozy in terms of temperature. It's been hot as balls here, too. We had a good break for a minute there, but it's kind of cranking up again. Let's do some drawer handles. I swear when I was a kid, like, this is everything I wanted in a piece of, like, drawing equipment. I couldn't even, like, wrap my head around this being real, you know. But like being able to duplicate things, having like multiple layers to play with, transparency settings, the undo button, good Lord. Old man Steve talking about the wonders of technology. To some extent, I think I get a little carried away with doing the technical stuff, these kind of like environmental things. Like there's somebody I was reading who finished doing this graphic novel, and it took him something like six or 7 years to get done with it. And he was like, one of the things I learned was that take shortcuts wherever possible. You know, sure, you might be obsessed with getting all these details in, but do you want to do just one thing your entire life? So I try to take that to heart, but like once I've established a certain level of detail when it comes to backgrounds, it's like I have to stick with that. Thankfully, this is a finite project and won't last forever. Oop. Crap. Anyways, point being, that's probably enough cabinetry. Of course, those drawer pulls are a little big. I don't think that's what we want. So this is probably a great time to start merging layers. Because if I keep this up, we're going to start running out of layers soon. So now I got the entire kitchen on one layer. And I can go and start putting in smaller drawer pulls. Something that feels more realistic at least. Are they actually aligned though? Not bad. If I want to keep things aligned in one axis, you know, I could just like grab one of the control handles here and try to stretch it, but it's like difficult. There we go. I have this curse too, like I'll get one side like going like that and then I'll grab the other end to try to bring it in and it won't grab. Fat fingers curse. Thanks, Evan. Yeah, unfortunately, Evan says this is fun to watch and the software is awesome. And I really like this quite a bit. Like I said, especially because of the limitations it imposes, because it forces me to just finish stuff and not get overwhelmed and too ambitious. Did I just do the same exact size drawer pulls? Fuck it. Who cares? Yeah, but the problem is that Adobe has decided they're not going to support it anymore. So they're pushing everybody into using a whole different piece of software now. I forget what it's called. Apparently it's going to be raster and vector stuff all in one. And I don't think they're going to just sunset this software and make it unavailable to use, but they're not going to support it, which means no more updates, no more tech support. And that's fine. As long as I can finish what I started without having to change tools in the middle of a project, I'm fine with that. But in the meantime, there will be no updating of OS. There will be no updating of anything. My refrigerator feels like it's floating. Well, you know what? Let me just... It should have some ventilation, right? There's a pan under every fridge. Boop. Good enough. Well, now the perspective is bugging me a little bit on this counter. I feel like there needs to be a little something going on here. Plus, I really made a little mistake right here. I think that area needs some improvement. Can I shave that little bulge out a little bit? Hey, not bad. That's fine. That'll work. I mean, some of that is excusable. I mean, I generally don't shoot for perfection. I don't want to set any precedents that I have to live up to. Plus, ain't nobody got time for that. But yeah, the perspective is bugging me a little bit now. Feels like right here on the fridge, you know, there's a vanishing point happening. And it's not reflected in the kitchen cabinet. One of the cool things about having my characters on separate layers, though, is I can always move people around, right? So maybe I can cover my mistakes by moving the person. But I kind of wanted this feeling like we just come in the door and we're seeing Mom, like, messing with stuff in her new kitchen arrangement. So I'm going to leave them there. I'm just going to add a little bit of angle on the kitchen. Clear some space for it. I mean, if I was going to do some proper perspective here, you know, I would be looking for the exact vanishing point. And that means that, oops, that means the exact vanishing point would be somewhere like right here where Mom's butt is. Which means I shouldn't worry about the kitchen cabinet, but, or, yeah, that cabinetry. But there's something about it that still bugs me. It doesn't always have to be scientific, right? There's an implied depth that I want to make sure to capture. Yeah, at least it feels like I put some effort into it. Well, alright. Now I'm feeling like that cabinet's way too big. It's a little tall. So can we shrink this down at all? Well, see, then the door becomes small. And then we got this Alice in Wonderland problem, right? So what I can do is duplicate that layer. And hold on, shut off the bottom layer, and let's just erase everything this side of the wall, this side of the door, I mean. Come on. Oh, you iPad. Okay, and then on the other layer, let's get rid of the door. Whoops. Make sure I'm working in the right layer. Good. Turn the other one back on, and then let's start messing with the size of that cabinet. Just a little bit. It's subtle. Man, see, now the fridge feels small, but that was the thing about this kitchenette in my mom's assisted living place, was that the stuff was small. I'm trying to convey the idea that this isn't a full-size fridge, so there's no like ice box on it or ice maker. But there is also a sizing that could feel awkward for anybody looking at it, so somewhere in between those two realities is where I'm trying to land. All right, fridge. That feels acceptable. So let me just bring it in a little bit, snug it up against the cabinet. Extend some lines. All right. So at this point, I can probably start erasing some of these sketch lines too, just so they don't make me feel a little crazy. I do have some kitchen counter stuff to fill in here, but whatever. Oops. Let's finish up these baseboards and then merge the layers. Now, I'm not going behind the narration here, just because all of my narration and word bubbles are a single layer right now that are more of just a reference layer for me to draw things the right size and not get in my own way. So I'm not going to worry about that. But I want that line to continue to extend, even through that narration box, so that when I'm finally in the process of compiling everything in Illustrator, I have the freedom, and the actual data to use there. That if things do have to move around, if I have to delete that narration box, I don't have to make and finish lines that I neglected to finish in the first place. Dan, he says that he's seeing a one-dimensional door. Totally noticed that too. I'm going to go back to that in a second. First and foremost, though, oops. Come on. I'm starting to make Commander Mark noises with my mouth when I pinch and zoom. So, all right, let's clear a little space here for the door to have some depth. Boop. Evan says this is mesmerizing. Do you know the origin of the term mesmerize? I guess there was a guy named Mesmer who was really into the dark arts and hypnosis. So to mesmerize is to pull a mesmer on someone. I want to say he was one of the first people that sort of introduced the idea of placebo. I might have that completely wrong, but there was a Radiolab episode I listened to where they talked about that. Okay, well, the door has a little bit of depth now. Oy. Now time for this door frame. Back to kitchen 1. I remember this was the door to the bathroom in this unit. This was a crazy episode in the Mom story, and for anybody following the comic, it's going to be a spoiler, but basically, the ultimate spoiler is she dies at the end. I don't know if you knew that based on the title, but we were trying to keep her out of a large care facility because we were told that, residential care facilities would be a lot better. They would feel more like a home, and she wouldn't feel like she was in an institutional kind of setting. And then one thing led to another, and she ended up in this institutional kind of place. But the end result was that she didn't have to share a room anymore, and she had a little kitchenette, and she had more autonomy. She felt like there was a lobby, there's an elevator, so it felt more like a hotel, and she was able to accept it more than just being in somebody else's house. So for a good section, of the story of taking care of my mom, we were trying to do the right thing and kind of doing the wrong thing for her. But then when she ended up in this place, she mellowed out a little bit. That's the thing about people going through these situations. They're all doing it for the first time. They haven't read up or learned about, commonalities among people. That's we try to avoid thinking about this stuff until it's happening to us, and then you're learning as you go. But then again, also everybody's different. You know, my dad right now, his needs are so different than my mom's. One of my favorite producers in the 2000s was named Mesmer. Now I know the origin. I have to listen. I have to check out Mesmer now. Let's use that tapered brush just to add a little light line there. You know, that might be too much. Again, I'm trying to like plan ahead for print. I don't want to like space lines too close together because nasty things can start happening. Maybe if we just blacken it in, it's probably better. I feel like something's missing from this door frame. Why are there so many faces on a door frame? Ugh. Do I even need to draw them all? Probably not. But only one more. Whoa, something's not right. Every now and then the ruler in this program gets a little janky. Like notice the distance there versus the gap here is totally off. You kind of want to rotate it until it snaps. Bam. And then let go. Don't touch it again. Now it's at a perfect 90. I think I'm going to call it a day on this door frame. But we are leading into a room that needs a little bit of depth to it. So what I'm going to do is just fill that in like so. Maybe that line needs to be lower. Just right there at the bottom. No, man. That door frame feels a little bit too detailed compared to the first one. Is it a lot taller also? Only by a little bit. I don't know. It might be worth revisiting, but I don't want to spend too much time on this spot. So, do we want to color this? Yeah, we do. A lot of times when it comes to the inorganic materials, we want to add just a little bit of gray. I'm working in sort of this duotone model now. So I try to leave most things white, but, you know, using colors sparsely and just as accents. It's close, so bigger, Dan says. Good point. I will use that as a reason to stop working on it. Just realized too, maybe this hallway needs to be darkened in. Fill that in. Nice. All right, so let's do a shade for the kitchen stuff and then get on with it. This gray actually feels a little bit too gray, too dark, but that we can fix that in post. In post. Book. Just the outline. Doop doop. So yeah, definitely too dark. Let's brighten it up just a little bit. Maybe a lot. Refrigerators are not dark. Now in terms of cabinetry, what am I doing wrong? Oh. I did forget to put a little lip at the top here, because the kitchen counter needs to have some mass. Do I want to just add another layer? Yeah, let's just do it as a new layer. And then we'll merge everything. So let's just do that. Black rectangle, and we'll fill it with a really, really light gray. And then let's just squish it. Come on, control points. They're so hard to grab sometimes. All right, question of the day. Do I need a backsplash? I think no. I think forget it. You know, it's a lot of detail to put into something that small. Let's not forget that printed, that if this is only like, what, an 8-inch tall book in the end, we're only dealing with like a 3-inch tall, or even a 2.5-inch tall space here. Or 1.75. Point is, no one's going to notice that this qualifies as doing too much, so let's leave it alone. Boop. So I still need to put a dish rack in here and do the faucet and everything, but I think we'll do that later, because right now, as far as testing this stream out, I think this was a good first test. Plus it's getting to the end of the day and I'm tired of sitting here. Upper cabinets, Dan says. Yes. There, to my knowledge, to my memory, I don't think there were any upper cabinets. This was kind of like a studio apartment layout. And I think there might have been some cheap like shelf put up there, like a wire rack. And that's kind of what I had drafted out here, was this like draining rack. It feels weird that she's actually already holding a plate as we walk in. Like, did the unit come with plates? I don't know. And these are the little details I think that sometimes I catch, and I worry that I'm misrepresenting things, because I'm trying to tell a true story here, but obviously there's some leeway needs to be given when it comes to detail. It's not unimaginable to think that there was some cheap dishware that came with the place. I do know that there was a sponge. I remember there being a sponge in the sink. So anyway, I think I'm done with this for today. We're going to pick up on this next time. Thanks for joining, guys. Great first test. I appreciate the support. And see you later. Bye-bye.